So now we're going to continue with part two of my conversation with Bobby Seale, founder of the Black Panther Party.
I want to, I just want to bring up something. You got to this point now where you quit your job in aerospace engineering, and now you're doing more community service. You're at Merritt College, and you obviously were inspired by Dr. King. But I want to know, like, so can you now talk to us about how did you how did you meet Huey Newton? How did that relationship first start? Um, and how did, can you lead us up to the point where kind of the Black Panther Party was formed, and sort of those initial few months, or if not years? Um,
It wasn't years. It wasn't years. What happened is that I'm at Merritt College at the same time I had these jobs, doing my little 9 credit hours or 6 credit hours, because I'm always working a full-time job through these processes. I wound up at the city government of Oakland, California. I created right after Malcolm X was killed, I created the Black History Fact Group, me and a young man at Merritt College called Virtual Morale. Virtual Morale today, he's finished his book recently, but more importantly, that was the period. And we really did the research. I wound up at the University of California doing a lot of research over those years, and I discovered they had 26 libraries at the University of California. I said, whoa, it blew my mind. I could find darn near anything in the world that was published, what have you, et cetera. And that was the source. And we would meet at my house. I lived across the street from Merritt College in Oakland, California. And I have this, they would meet twice a week in my house around a long dining room table at the house. This is a family home. My mother and father lived there too. I lived there. My sister had moved out. My brother was off in the United States Air Force and off in Omaha, Nebraska. And that period there was something that boiled over. Once we got the course in, I changed the Black History Fact Group to Soul Students Advisory Council as the first Black student organization on the campus. And then I created a rally. In other words, we were reading in the newspapers and stuff like this here that 29% of the people who were dying on the front lines in Vietnam was African Americans. And so what we're coming from as students and stuff like this here is that, wow, we're dying, and this country is still not recognizing our constitutional, democratic, civil human rights in this country. And this was that. So I organized a rally to protest that at Merritt College. And that was the first time that had happened there. We changed the name of Black Students Fact Group, the Soul Students Advisory Council. Virtual Morale registered because he had 12 credit hours. I had less than 12 credit hours, but I named it the Soul Students Advisory Council. So that was the first. Anyway, at this rally, Huey Newton comes in. I hadn't seen him for a while, and because he had actually graduated from Merritt College by then. He was in Knight Law School, San Francisco Law School, a private law school, not San Francisco State, a private law school. And he comes around. He was shocked that I'd organized over 700 people into this program we had for 3 hours at Merritt College. And he says, you organized? I said, yeah, man. I said, you told me you were busy, et cetera. And he followed me. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going across the street to my house. Where are you going over that for? I said, because I asked Virtual said we got over 200 people signed up for Soul Students Advisory Council, new organization. So I fed everybody. In other words, I cooked all this barbecue, you know what I mean? The barbecue I learned from my uncle in Liberty, Texas, when I was 12 years old, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. He owned his own barbecue pit restaurant, what have you. And that's the way I would organize and put that whole program together. So now we had a student organization there. And with this rally, that really, really went over big. From there, I was going one night and Huey, I said, well, I'm going to go research some stuff on blues up at University of California and in the boutique record shops. I said, so many young white folks are so interested in Black American music, et cetera. I said, there's history to this. And so we went up there And whatever happened, we walking down the street after we left the boutiques. And the next thing I know, there's hordes of people up around University of California, up and down Telegraph Avenue. It's at night. I'm talking about thousands of people. And we got several blocks down to Haste, I think, in Telegraph. And Huey wanted me to recite this poem that I had cited at the rally, and that was Uncle Sammy Called Me Full of Lucifer, a poem out of one of my 20 different periodicals that I subscribed to for the last 2 or 3, 4 years at the time. And I recited this poem up there, standing on a chair. Uncle Sammy Called Me Full of Lucifer. It's a prose kind of piece where, you know, I don't give a good eagle-eyed McFleagle triple whammy damn, for I feel his swastika will not serve, and so and so and so and so. It's a young black man who's writing a poem that he's not going to serve, and you're saying, sure, free public health penicillin cured me, but Uncle Sammy, screw yourself, I'm not serving. But it was a powerful piece of poetry that I picked up out of Liberator magazine I subscribed to out of New York. My point is that this was that period that caused that poem caused us to get in a fight with the police, in this big crowds of people who were shouting to the police, leave him alone, leave him alone. And because this undercover cop, I didn't even know he was a cop, you know, he said I use obscene language. And I told him that the Supreme Court said we can use the 4-letter word all we want to nowadays, which was a ruling. We got in a fight. And I didn't know he was a cop because he was in a yellow t-shirt and what have you, et cetera. He didn't mention himself. Anyway, however we come up out of it, people jumped on these guys and tried to beat these undercover cops. They were all undercover cops dressed like hippies and whatever, beat me up on the ground. And then my brother, John Seale, he was with us, and he got had some other guys, him, and they came and kicked these other guys off. It's a crowd, a horde of people all in the way, et cetera. Anyway, they finally got these people off of me. And then I got up, and then yellow t-shirt, the one who took me first, came at me. So I flipped this knife. Now, it's a scalp knife, you know what I mean? It's only 2.5-inch blade. In all my toolboxes at home, you know, because I have scalp knives and stuff in all my 3 different toolboxes, because I got all these different trades. And I flipped it out, and he came at me again once I got it loose, and I cut him in his hand. I told him to get off me, whatever. That's it was a scene. Anyway, I get arrested. Huey gets arrested because Huey was boxing one of the uniform cops later on. And we go to preliminary hearing. They lie and say that he told him he was blocking the sidewalk. He didn't. When he came and accosted me, he said, you use obscene language and blah, blah, blah. So when I went in front of the judge, and at this time, I'm employed by the city government of Oakland, California. I'm a community liaison for the North Oakland Neighborhood Service Center under the Department of Human Resources, city government of Oakland, California. It's a real top flight job. At any rate, I'm telling the judge, you know, what happened, et cetera. And he went on and gave us probation. This is what he did, me and Huey, you know, for fighting these police. And then I says, Huey, and we've been talking, let's talk about starting this new organization. I says, meet me at my office tonight. This is the War and Poverty office that I work at. And got there, and we started writing this 10-point program. You know, 1 point of employment, 1 point of decent housing, 1 point of decent education that taught us our true history, another point that dealt with, we want to be exempt from military service. All men and women should be exempt from military service. And then point number 7, Huey, who's in law school, more or less style that one, want immediate end to police brutality and murder of Black people. And number 8, we wanted all Black men and women who've been tried by all white juries to have a right to another trial, and have some African-American people who represent the average reasoning person in our Black community to be on these juries, et cetera, and so on. And we begin to summarize it. We wanted land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. And then I fooled around there, and it was 2 or 3 different nights we were dealing with this, because Huey was up in the legal aid office at the center where I work, and I'm downstairs in the other area, and then I have my own office, and it's at night where everybody else is off work, you know, because I could go into the building anytime. I lived only 4 blocks from the place, and I was a designated person in case people break into that place. But my point is, that's where I work, and this is where we was at, and I told Huey to meet me, and we completed this 10-point platform and program. Then I summed that program up because I've been impressed by, in '64, one with Malcolm X's Ballot of the Bullet. And what it was, I assessed that Malcolm X says, and what he's talking about, I don't want to be forced in a situation, you know, by the ballot, you know, by the bullet. You know, at this time, people like Medgar Evers had been shot and killed. Children had been bombed and blown up. Other civil rights people had been attacked, et cetera, blew up. Brother John Lewis and others, all those programs, all these things had already happened. You see what I mean? And all of this is accumulating to me in this time. So I would fool around and ran across for the third or fourth time in my period of 4 years of studying my history, the Declaration of Independence. And I read and reread it. And then I tried to recite it like a piece of poem, you know, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary. Boom, I said, oh yeah. And then, you know, I was a stand-up comedian at some points and also a jazz drummer on the side, et cetera. And so I attempted to, what would we say, imitate John Wayne, who would say, when in the course of human events or something like this here. And I played with that. And then I says, now Martin Luther King would say, when in the course of human events, et cetera. Anyway, but when I read it and reread it and read it, these 2 paragraphs, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for any one people to dissolve the political bondage which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of humankind, dictate that they should declare the causes which impel them to dissolve that political bondage. The other paragraph piece says, when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursues and invariably evinces a design to reduce a people under absolute despotism, then it is the right of the people to alter or change that government and provide new guards for their future security and happiness. So the 10-point platform and program we was doing was a political party 10-point platform and program. We named it the Black Panther Party for self-defense at first. We touched on self-defense because so many peaceful protesters had been shot, killed, murdered, brutalized, and even the young white left radicals, you know, who was against the war and also supporting civil rights, they was getting beat, shot. They were all around the University of California. Oh my God, Ronald Reagan, he sent the National Guard in one time and they shot up and killed 2 or 3 people with the People's Park March. My point is, this is a dynamic of protest going on really all across the United States of America. But we were evolving, we're popping up right in the middle of an already ongoing high profile protest movement with all the different areas from the war, civil rights, et cetera, and so on.